Hey, good afternoon. It's Thursday, September 7th. It's noon. This has to be Coffee with Ralph. Yeah, I'm Ralph Gale and I'm your host. And each week I talk about different things pertaining to retirement, and hopefully you realize that coffeewithralph.com is a free 15-minute phone call with me to ask me any question you might have that I might not have time to answer on this podcast. Quick 15 minutes every week at noon, Thursday. I'd like to take a minute here just to mention that September is Life Insurance Awareness Month, and that's an area that is most often forgotten or ignored in the planning aspects of retirement. So I want to make sure I put my plug in here. Protecting your family against your unexpected passing and the financial havoc that it will wreak on your family is important. Last week I started talking about Medicare, and we went through Medicare Part A and B. But I want to summarize that today. And with permission, I'd like to share my screen. Let me get the right screen up here now. There it is. Wonderful. So I want to just go back over what I covered last week briefly and then move on from there. But I'm going to leave this screen up. Hopefully everybody can see that well. But if you can't, I'm just going to run through it. Medicare Part A, is hospitalization. It covers per occurrence. So that means what's an occurrence? Well, I've had a heart attack on January 1st, and I go to the hospital. And for the moment that I stop getting care for that, I have a 6-day window that if I need care again, it's under the same occurrence. However, on day 61, I suffer another heart attack and I go back to the hospital. It's another occurrence. Now, that being said, the hospital deductible for days 1 through 60 of an occurrence is $1,600. And so you can see where that could add up quite a bit over the course of a year. The other big area that Part A covers is your rehabilitation in a facility. And for the first 20 days in a facility, your rehabilitation doesn't cost you anything. And then Part B is about doctor and medical. So classify Part A as room and board. If I'm in the hospital, it covers my room, it covers some nursing, it covers my food. It covers medicines given to me in the hospital. Part B then covers everything else, the doctor, the medical, all the testing, the x-rays, the MRIs, all that stuff is covered under Part B. And so you have a $266 a year deductible for Part B. After that, you get to cover 20% of the bill. So if I go to the doctor and he charged me $100, I get to pay him $20. If I go for chemotherapy, which is one of the big areas that gets forgotten about here, it covers 80%, and some of those treatments are $1,500 to $2,000 a treatment. So one treatment a week could cost you $300. So that's Part B. Let's go into Part C. Let's start talking about that a bit. This could be a long day or it can be a short meeting today. But let's go Medicare Part C from a 30,000-foot level here. Part C is not what people would call insurance. It is Medicare taking Part A and Part B and sending it off to a private insurance company for them to be their third-party administrator, to monitor the cost, to make sure that you get the care that you're supposed to get. So Medicare Part C doesn't give you anything more than what Medicare gives you. It has some additional benefits that they can add, like over-the-counter supplies, Band-Aids, aspirin, that type of thing. Gym memberships, there's a good one. And different things. I mean, some of them have a group of people that'll come to the house and help you around the house, take you to doctor appointments. that type of thing. Make sure you get preventative care. So let's put it where it belongs there. So the Medicare Advantage will take the hospital deductible and they handle it differently. They define it as $325 to $350. I've seen some at $425 per day as a copay for days 1 through 5. That's per admittance. So let me use that heart attack issue again. For example, I go to the hospital. Now understand, in order to get rehab in a facility and Medicare to pay for it, you need to stay in the hospital for 3 days. So let's put 3 in our mind, because pretty much you're going to stay there 3 days. If you want any follow-up care, that is. So put that in your pipe there. But at $325 per day for the first 5 days, and I'm only there for 3, I get to pay $975 or a little more. But I go home, I'm home for 45 days. So I'm still under Medicare's term, I'm still under the same occurrence, but Medicare Advantage now says it's per admission. I have a heart attack and I go back to the hospital. It's a new admission. So I get to start that $325 a day again for 3 days. So you can see that that could add up very quickly to be at least what the deductible is with Medicare Part A or more. Rehab in a facility is handled the same. The first 20 days, a lot of them are 10 days, but let's say 20 days, there's no cost. But let's take rehab to where it is today. Rehabilitation, well, I use a client that I had here recently. He had a hip replaced. He was in the hospital for the procedure and they kept him overnight, and then he went home. And then said, come back for your rehab. Well, so he didn't get put in a facility for rehabilitation. They had him up and walking literally that same day, and saying, you know, it's going to be painful, but you got to come back for rehabilitation. Now, under Medicare Part C, the Advantage program, for each time he goes back for rehabilitation, he could pay $40 a visit. A little different than how Medicare Part A would cover that. So let's move down into the primary doctor. You can see that as the next piece on that slide. My primary doctor under a Medicare Advantage plan doesn't have a deductible for Part B, but they have copays. So for my primary doctor, I get to pay nothing. But then for every specialist I get to see, I pay $45 a visit. You remember I mentioned chemotherapy. Medicare Part C does absolutely nothing to help you with that bill for chemotherapy. So you are left with the 20% copayment. Well, I hope none of us ever get cancer, but the truth is, they say 50% of us will need care because of cancer in our lifetime. And I think we can all look around the room and we can all see somebody that we know that's dealt with cancer over their lifetime. What do we do about that? You know, I can't really talk about the other side of that. I'll talk about, no, I'm going to do it. I may get in a little trouble over this, but let me tell you how the other side of that. So I keep Medicare Part A, Medicare Part B, and I pick up a Medicare supplement, sometimes called a Medigap program. And they have plans A through MNO, I believe. Most typical is the plan G. Here's what it does. Anything that's covered under Part A and you have a deductible or copay, it's taken care of. You don't worry about anything out of pocket. You come in with the Part B, they leave the $266. By the way, that's for 2023. It will go up for 2024. They leave that for you to pay. After that, you are covered 100% for doctor and medical. So I've swapped out My rehabilitation, by the way, is also taken care of through the Medicare supplement program or the Medigap program, however you want to put it. So for a little bit of a cost every month, and yes, it goes up every year because we get older. That's life. We don't stay young and we don't stay healthy anymore. But for a little premium, I can eliminate all that. But the premiums will go up. So if I've got a Medicare Advantage program, what can I do to offset those? Can I get a Medigap program? No, you can't. You cannot have a Medigap and a Medicare Advantage program at the same time. Take a Medicare Advantage program. There are programs out there. There are plans, insurance, to help you reimburse you for your stays in the hospital, for some of the rehabilitation costs, and even for some of the chemotherapy. And well, actually, most of the chemotherapy, so that you're not left holding the bag. Now, Medicare Advantage program typically has, $3,500 to $5,000 or a little bit more as a maximum out of pocket. So if you plan that and you say, hey, listen, this is what I'm going to maybe spend every year, and put it in a savings account or put it aside, and you can do that. Okay. And if you say, well, I can't do that, but I could afford an insurance program to help me pay for those costs, which, by the way, would be less than a Medigap program. Okay. You notice I didn't say Part D here. And I wanted to make sure you understand why. Part D is not included in a Part C, but the most Medicare Advantage programs now include drug coverage. That was outlined by Medicare a couple of years ago that they needed to do that. Medigap programs, however, you need to pick up a supplemental drug program to help you cover the cost of your drugs. Can you change from one to the other? There's a great question. I love that question. If you're new to Medicare, you have a trial period. You can take a Medicare Advantage program and you can try it for 12 months. If you don't like it, change. You can change Medigap program, Medicare Advantage programs, October 7th to December, whatever it is this year. Every year you have that option to change that program, but you are tied for the complete year with that program. So when we look at them in October, November, we want to make sure it's the right plan for you. Medigap program, once we're out that initial enrollment period, when I'm turned 65 and I'm eligible for Medicare, or 67 or 68 or 69, whatever, and I leave my employment, I retire, I have this open enrollment period with Medicare Advantage programs and the Medicare supplement programs. Here's the thing. During that period, you have one opportunity to make your choice. You can go Medicare Advantage program or Medicare supplement program. No health questions either way. So it's a great way to get down so that you're not penalized for those little things like high blood pressure and cholesterol that we all have nowadays. But once we're through that open enrollment period with Medicare, and we're a year in, for example, I now have to health qualify for a Medigap program. That could make our decision interesting. I have a client with rheumatoid arthritis. What was my counsel with him? Before we got to the time where we couldn't talk about both at the same time, I said, well, let me ask you, does rheumatoid arthritis get better with age? And he said, no. I said, so you're anticipating more healthcare costs as you get older? Yes. Okay. Which way do we want to go? Because this may be the only time you can make that election. And his choice was his choice. I give you the information. I want you to understand the information so you can make the decision based upon ample knowledge. Are you going to completely understand Medicare, a Medicare Advantage, or a Medicare Medigap program? The answer is no. The last time I checked, there's over 10,000 codes that are used with medical treatment every day. Could I ever imagine understanding all 10,000 codes before I make a decision about my medical insurance going forward? The answer is no. You're never going to do it. But we can look at the big pieces, the ones that are going to cost us the most over the course of time, and make a decision based on that. Listen, this has been Coffee with Ralph. It is Thursday, it's noon. I ran my 15 minutes. I could probably go to another 15 minutes if I had all of your questions in front of me. I don't. And so with that, I'm going to sign off for today. And I'm going to thank you for being here and wish you a great week. And we'll see you next week, where I'll go a little bit more into depth on the Medicare supplement programs, also known as the Medigap. Have questions between then and now, coffeewithralph.com. Really, it's free. I want to give you the information you need to make the decision you have to make. Remember, October through December is now the open enrollment period, the annual enrollment period, for Medicare Advantage programs. That decision's coming around the corner. I know you're seeing the advertisements. God bless. Have a great week. I'll see you next week at noon on Thursday.